For years, the National Cattlemen's Beef Association has been leading the charge against the Waters of the United States, or WOTUS. Here to talk more about this important topic is Scott Yager, NCBA's Environmental Counsel. Thanks for joining us, Scott.
Thanks for having me, Kevin.
Can you give us an update on where we currently stand with the Waters of the U.S. rule?
So where we currently stand with the Waters of the U.S. rule is that this has been a priority issue for NCBA for the past 5 or 6 years, I'd say, and we've been strongly opposed to it and trying to get it fixed. So we've taken a three-pronged approach to that, fighting it through the courts by suing the agencies to get that fixed, taking it to Congress to see if Congress can get it fixed through the legislative process, as well as going straight to the agencies to see what help they can provide here. And where each of those stand is, on the court front, we have our lawsuit going to the Supreme Court in October. On the congressional front, we have Congress working through the appropriations process right now, and one of the provisions in the EPA and Army Corps appropriations budget is a language that would allow the EPA and Army Corps to repeal the 2015 WOTUS rule without getting bogged down in activist litigation. And then lastly, but most importantly, the path to victory here is through the agencies and through EPA and the Army Corps going through the regulatory process to actually repeal the 2015 WOTUS rule and to replace it with a narrower definition.
Remind our viewers of the risk this rule would pose to cattlemen and women all across our country.
That's a great question, Kevin, and the risk that this 2015 Obama-era WOTUS rule would pose to cattle producers is that when you think about what WOTUS is, it means Waters of the U.S., and it is essentially the jurisdictional element of the Clean Water Act. And the 2015 rule was a vast overreach of jurisdiction on a monumental scale. So virtually all water bodies across the country, regardless of how much water flows through them or how kind of attenuated they are from a navigable water, would presumably fall under the 2015 rule's definition of a federal water. And what that means for a cattle producer is you now have the EPA and the Army Corps sniffing around in your backyard, on your pastures, on your rangeland, because they are now jurisdictional waters under their purview, and you might have to get a permit for what you're doing on your land.
Now, we recently saw Environmental Protection Agency Administrator Scott Pruitt visit a ranch right here in Colorado. Can you talk about the significance of that visit?
So EPA Administrator Scott Pruitt came out to Last Chance, Colorado, and visited with Mark Fraser and the Fraser Ranch, as well as a number of other stakeholders, including Ag County Commissioners and Ag Commissioner of Colorado and other people who wanted to weigh in with Mr. Pruitt on some of EPA's policies and paths forward. And one issue of relevance here is the WOTUS rule, and he took comments and suggestions from all the people in the room, including the ranchers. There was a strong contingent of cattle producers there, and Mr. Pruitt listened to them and wrote down notes and was by all means engaged, very well engaged. And that is a product of the EPA actually reaching out to NCBA to find a ranch out near Denver to go visit with and to kind of hear from cattle producers about the WOTUS rule and what they want to see in a replacement and repeal.
The cattle industry's relationship with the EPA has often been challenging. How refreshing is it to have an administrator that actually wants to hear from ranchers?
It's extremely refreshing to have an EPA administrator that actually does want to hear from cattle producers and wants to get out to rural America and hear what stakeholders have to say. So that is extremely refreshing, and it's a really good sign that we have someone in the EPA that is actually willing to listen. And that's a big change from back in 2015, where, if you recall, EPA under the Obama administration touted the fact that they had over 400 meetings on their rollout of the 2015 WOTUS rule. And in fact, EPA officials went out to Fraser Ranch in Colorado back before their 2015 rollout. So that's kind of an interesting wrinkle here, is that the difference between the two administrations and their willingness to kind of hear us out and actually have a substantive conversation with ears wide open. I think that's very much what is happening now with the Administrator Pruitt versus what didn't happen before under the Obama administration.
Well, thanks again for joining us, Scott.
Thank you.